Hello, everyone. We did our replication project on using goal setting and performance feedback to increase daily running distance. The study was conducted by WAC, Crossland, and Wilsonberger. My name is Sandy Awad, and I currently live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is my second semester in Ball State University, and I have been in RBT for about 3 years now.
My name is Caitlin Burns, and I currently reside in Montgomery, Alabama. I am currently in my second semester here at BSU, and although I've done a lot of internships, I currently do not work in the field, but I do have some experience with children with autism and going through the ABA process because of my younger brother. So I've been dealing with this since I was 8 years old.
My name is Morgan Starkey, and I am from Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm in my third semester of the program here at BSU, and I have worked as an RBT at an autism school for the last 2 years.
My name is Tiffany Thomas. I live in Aurora, Illinois. This is my third semester at BSU studying ABA. And prior to that, I got my master's in social work and have been working as a school social worker for the past 2 years at a preschool and at a middle school.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Fareka. I am from Madison, Wisconsin. This is my second semester at BSU. And I currently work as a behavioral treatment therapist at a licensed autism center with a company I've been with for the past 4 years.
Great. So to start, I am going to introduce our topic. So the CDC recommends that individuals engage in at least 30 minutes of physical activity a day. Physical activity is anything that uses energy to move the body. Types of these activities include running, walking, biking, swimming, basketball, tennis, and any sports. They recommend this because there are so many benefits of physical activity. Some of these include weight control, muscle strength, better sleep, improved cardiovascular health, and weight loss and life extension. It also helps by combating health conditions and diseases such as heart disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and arthritis. Also, physical activity not only helps our physical bodies, but it plays a big part of our emotional health. Exercise stimulates chemicals in our brain that keep us happier, relaxed, and less anxious. Despite these benefits, a study by Rockamboa, Bransom, and Taylor found that 50% of college students do not meet the recommended amount of physical activity. As a group, we decided to replicate this study in particular because we all wanted to increase our physical activity and, more importantly, increase our running distances. Now, the purpose of this study that we replicated is to increase running distance by using goal setting and feedback.
So I'm going to talk just a little bit about goal setting, which was the intervention that was used in the original study, which we then used for our current study. So according to Brobst Ward, goal setting provides an explicit criterion as opposed to just saying do your best or you can do it, keep trying. It's more specific. With goal setting, specific strategies are implemented to reach a specific target rather than a broad statement of attempt. Locke and Latham founded the goal setting theory, which is what we based our goal setting off of. This theory is based on the simplest of introspective observations, namely that conscious human behavior is purposeful. In layman's terms, this just means that specific types of behaviors are more likely to occur if someone does them with a purpose rather than doing them absent-mindedly or without thinking about them. So in summary, goal setting theory says that the simplest and most direct motivational explanation why some people perform better than others is because they have different performance goals. So if somebody says, I want to run 5 miles, I want to run 10 miles, they will perform better than somebody who says, I want to run more, or I want to increase my distance. So in Locke and Latham's theory, everyone has the same ability level, The only difference in performance is their motivation towards their specific set goal. So goal setting has been used across a lot of different settings with a lot of different people, different genders, different ages, different goals even. We focused on to prove that it works for us were fitness goal setting. So one study that we found focused on increasing fitness activities through the use of a self-monitoring fitness tracking app. The user would input goals into the app and receive goal-setting text messages reminders sporadically throughout their use. According to Liu and Willoughby, the study demonstrates the usefulness of goal-setting text reminders, adding to the existing literature on the effectiveness of theory-grounded text message interventions. The study also highlights the positive impact of goal-setting text messages on individuals' self-efficacy, awareness of their personal goals, and motivation to change health behaviors. Another research study was completed by Meliliu, Hanton, and O'Brien, which focused on the effects of goal setting in relationship to rugby performance. So this goal was a little bit more specific in a specific sport, a specific team. So the study found that for all participants involved in the study, performance following the intervention showed a desired change in behavior. Moreover, 100% of rugby players who were involved showed increased performance, and all but one participant performed above their goal. So that's just another study that shows that goal setting can increase physical activity behaviors. A third study involved football players and their performance in practices as well as during their games. According to Ward and Carnes, during their baseline, all of their target players failed to achieve greater than 80% correct performance on reads, drops, and tackles during practice and showed similar performances during their games. During the intervention, the players who were involved established and met goals that equaled or exceeded 90% correct performance. So this means that their performance increased by 10% with no changes in effort necessarily or practice, but more because of what they set their goals to. So the study that we chose to replicate involved goal setting to increase the distance ran by participants. In this study, goals were set weekly and recorded on a Google document shared among everyone in the group. Each week, every participant's distance was recorded on the shared Google document. Results were highlighted in red if the participant did not meet their goal, and highlighted in green if the participant did meet their goal. So prior to the intervention, baseline data was taken for 2 weeks to identify where we were at before intervention so that we could compare it to post-intervention. Findings on this will be discussed later in the presentation.
Okay, so for methods, 5 women ages ranging from 22 to 26 years old participated in the study. All participants are master level students, and they were all moderately active and considered healthy. They were able to run at least 3 times a week. The setting took place in any indoor facility with a treadmill available, such as a home or a gym. Most of us chose to do it at the gym. Materials used were Apple Watch workout app, treadmill, Google spreadsheet in which we all shared our data together, and a computer, obviously, to access the spreadsheet. So we use a multiple baseline design with an embedded changing criterion for design for intervention 2 to assess the effects of goal setting and feedback for the participants. We collected baseline 50 weeks, and during this phase, participants wore Apple Watches, and they did not set any short-term or long-term goals. Short-term goals were the distance participants wanted to run weekly, and then long-term goals were distance participants aimed to run in a single running episode by the end of the study. There were 2 treatment phases, intervention 1 and intervention 2. During intervention 1, each participant set a long-term goal and a short-term goal. If the participant did not meet the goals, she could lower her goal or stay at the goal for the following week. In intervention 2, if the participant fails to meet the goals after intervention 1, she could then set short-term goals weekly rather than daily. This intervention only required the person run twice a week.
In the following study, each participant was introduced to what measuring tool we were going to be using. All participants were able to therefore find out that we all had Apple Watches. Therefore, we agreed that this would probably be our best measuring tool, so we decided to use it. The definition that would probably best describe this study is probably that each participant wanted to increase their goal weekly of exercising. So we decided to use a goal of running. And so our running was described as a pace that's greater than 4 miles per hour. So each of us was on a treadmill and we had to run greater than 4 miles per hour. And that was our running technique. And each week we wanted to increase this ability. So each of us wrote down a weekly goal that we wanted to meet. So the data collection, we used our Apple Watches, and we also used an Apple Watch app which collected the data from our watches. So when we uploaded our data on this Apple Watch, we shared it with one another so that we could all see the data that each person had, which allowed us to keep our treatment fidelity intact. So we also used a Google document to upload our information on. So in the following document, you can see that we each have each of our names, we have our distances that we're supposed to run each week, and we have a distance that we want to meet. So we have a key right here, and after each week, we were to write down or highlight if we reached our goal or if we did not reach our goal. So green or red. So here you can see that this is our week 1, and we all set goals to meet, and there was 3 of us who made our goals and 2 of us who did not. So we each highlighted our goals if we made them and if we did not. As you can see, Morgan, Jamie, and Tiffany made their weekly goals, and Sandy and myself did not. So in the short-term goal, we each had different goals that we wanted to meet. So not all of us had the same goal. This goes on for each intervention or each week that we had, because we wanted to increase our mileage each week, but at different rates. So I had a higher rate than some others, and some had lower rates than the others. To make sure, so this is what the app kind of looks like, the Apple app that we used. So we were able to share this with one another. So each of us had our information on their cell phones, and we could check to make sure that that person actually ran the distance that they wrote down on our Google documents. So this was with our treatment fidelity. We wanted to make sure that everybody was on task, everybody was completing the exact thing that they said they were doing. So we had to create our treatment integrity to make sure that everybody was doing what they said they were doing. So when we created a checklist to make sure that we could all keep each other accountable for what was going on. In our following checklist, we had to review or set a short-term goal for that running episode. So this required us to enter the Google documents that we had created. So we entered this, and we had to manually insert the goals that we wanted to reach each week. We then had to set our Apple Watches to indoor run mode. So on your Apple Watch, you have multiple workout things that you can do. And at just the running one, there's probably about 3 different ones you can do. So we want to make sure that ours was set to indoor and not outdoor, because if it was set to outdoor, it would mess up our information, and we wouldn't get the accuracy that we needed. Then we needed to start our workout. So on your Apple Watch, you have your start and stop, but it can be kind of tricky. You have to start your watch at the exact same time that the treadmill's already begun. So, and then when you finish, you had to make sure that not only you hit end, but so on the Apple Watch, you have a pause and an end button. So we had to make sure that we ended our workouts and then scroll down and hit the done button to make sure that it saved to our app so each person could see what we ran each week. Then we needed to record our distance in our Google spreadsheet, which is this following document. So we recorded, and we tended to wait till the end of the week to record our data just because we all are super busy. So it was a lot easier to record the data at the end of the week than going in each individual time and inputting it. When we finished inputting our data, we wrote our dates of what time they were ran at, and we wrote the amount that we ran. Then we placed that if it was green, so we met our goal or exceeded our goal, or red if we didn't reach our goal. And then finally, then we coded our stuff. And so our color system really ended up helping us out because we were able to see what was going on with each other, and it helped us with our graphs.
So the next slides, each of us is going to present our own graphs and our own results.
Okay, these are my results. Overall, I was able to increase my running distance by using goal setting and feedback. My baseline was about 0.33 miles a week, which increased to 0.88 miles a week on average by the end of the study. I did end up having to do intervention 2 for not meeting my goals for intervention 1. My average for intervention 1 was about 0.75 miles, and my intervention, my average was about 1 mile for intervention 2, which shows that it increased by using goal setting and feedback.
In my graph, I had to do intervention 1 and 2, and this is because I did not reach my goal each week. So in the beginning, on our baseline, I ran it about 4 times, and then I went to intervention 1, and although I did hit my long-term goal, I set a long-term goal of running a half marathon, which is 13.1. I did achieve this goal, but the rest of the goals I had set for the next following weeks, I did not achieve. Therefore, I had to move to intervention 2. So my performance feedback, I started off at 3.25 at my baseline. When the study was completely finished, I averaged a 3.8. So it did show that I did, using the performance and having this, it did show that I was able to increase my running mileage and my daily goal activity overall.
So my very first run was 1 mile, and my baseline had an average of 0.95, which was fairly consistent throughout my whole baseline. And this is ideal of my running distance. I usually don't run very much, usually a max of 1 mile. And I was really interested in this project because I really did want to increase my distance. So once the intervention started, I increased my distance during each session, achieving 100% of my goals that I set. I ended the intervention with a run of 3.8 miles and an intervention mean of 2.8 miles. And I found for myself that using this goal setting and feedback did indeed increase my running distance.
So this is my graph. My baseline average was 0.58 miles. I ran 3 times during the baseline. Prior to this research, I didn't run really at all. And post-intervention, my average was 2.78 miles. So as you can see from the graph, I made incremental steps, but kept increasing my distance as planned. My first run during baseline was 1 mile, which was pretty average for me. That was what I was expecting to be about the whole time. And I was able to increase my distance to 3.8 miles by the end of the research.
So during my baseline, I was able to run a total of 6 times with an average of 1.62 miles for my baseline. During the intervention, I met my goal 100% of the time and was able to have an average of 2.9 miles, with my highest or longest run being 4.14 miles. Over the 22 sessions, I had a steady increase in my running distance. Therefore, I would say that goal setting and performance feedback had definitely helped increase my running distance.
So just to review the results that were already shared. So all 5 participants increased their running distance using goal setting and feedback. Sandy went from an average of 0.33 miles during baseline to an average of 0.88 miles during during intervention. Caitlin went from an average of 3.25 miles during baseline to an average of 3.8 during intervention. Morgan went from an average of 0.95 miles during baseline to an average of 2.8 miles during the intervention. Tiffany went from an average of 0.58 miles during baseline to an average of 2.78 during the intervention. And finally, Jamie went from an average of 1.62 miles during baseline to an average of 2.9 miles during intervention. So 2 of the participants, Morgan and Jamie, reached their daily running goal 100% of the time, and 1 of the participants, Caitlin, reached their long-term running goal.
In conclusion, all participants increased their average running distance. Only 1 participant, Caitlin, hit their long-term goal, but that was within the first week of the intervention. All participants reported being more active and in better physical shape. And all participants reported that they would continue running to hit their long-term goal. Overall, our data supported the results of the original study. We found that goal setting and performance feedback increased running distance within our 6-week experiment. This study demonstrated the effectiveness of goal setting to improve running performance, even though only 1 of the participants reached their long-term goal. There were several limitations to our study, the most important being participants faced technical issues with their Apple Watch. In the original study, they used Nike Sport Kit and a Nike Sport sensors, but since none of the participants in the study had access to that, we decided to use Apple. 1 participant, Caitlin, reported that while her Apple Watch would record her run, it would not save the data collected. This resulted in a limitation of the group's ability to verify the distance that she ran. And as a result, Apple company ended up sending a new Apple Watch to her. Another limitation was that Apple Watches required a 20-minute run or walk to calibrate workouts correctly. If participants had not used the workout application before the start of this study and did not run for over 20 minutes during their first baseline data, it is possible that it could have miscalculated the distance ran up until the point that they were able to run over 20 minutes. Participants also reported that there was a lot of variability in how the Apple Watch recorded their running distance based off of their running form, which basically means however fast they move their arms changed how much further the watch recorded that they had run. There was also a large difference in the variation of treadmill brands used by the participants, since all the participants were from all over the nation. Treadmills have to be calibrated to remain at the correct speed, so this could affect our definition of running, where participants needed to run at or above 4 miles per hour. Another limitation to this study was running 3 times per week. As students and full-time 40-hour workers, participants faced a hard time meeting that goal of running 3 times a week. There was also a lack of time to complete The intervention in the original study, they had over 14 weeks, and we had only 6, so we were not able to meet our long-term goals. Another limitation that we thought was important to highlight was that in our experiment, only females were used in the participation of this study, and they were all moderately active and in their early 20s. And while all participants reported that they would continue running until long-term goals were met, there's a lack of maintenance data to confirm that. So we have several future suggestions for of this study. One would be to make sure all Apple Watches are calibrated ahead of time and technical difficulties are foreshadowed and seen before the study begins. Another suggestion that we had was to videotape participants as they run to monitor the form that they used and report if there was any variability in the form that they used and the distance that was collected. We also believe that having gym continuity between all participants would be a huge asset to this study. So every participant would go to a Princeton Club or an Anytime Fitness to make sure that the treadmill brands used were more consistent and more likely to be recalibrated at the same time. Due to the participants being in the master's program and working full-time, we would suggest that we limit intervention 1 to only running 2 times per week versus the 3 times per week that we had set, because participants had a hard time where they physically could meet their goals, but were unable to due to time constraint and scheduling purposes. We also would suggest that 6 weeks is not long enough to meet a goal of running 8 to 13 miles, which were our long-term goals for the study. And participant diversity would help strengthen the results of our study by including males and a wider variety of ages and athletic potential. And then we would also continue doing maintenance check-ins with the Apple Watches to make sure that people continued running to meet their long-term goal.
So we wanted to share a little bit of our personal experiences with this research study just to get a little bit more of a personal touch to it. So before doing this study, I did not run. I had no desire to run. I didn't think that setting a goal, even if it was once a day, would work for me. And following the study, I realized that having to record a goal every week for every run that I was going to do really held me to that standard, and knowing that my peers were going to be checking in on that goal and be able to see in very clear red or green if I was successful really kind of stuck me to it. So in the future, I plan on, or actually I have already started a group chat with some friends that I talk to every day who are also looking to increase their fitness activity. And at the beginning of the week, we share with each other when we plan on going to the gym. So it's 3 times a week, 4 times a week, whatever days we're planning on it. And then we check in with each other. So it's that goal setting piece as well as that accountability that I know that they're waiting to see if I'm there, if I did my workout, if I ran the distance that I told them I was going to run. So after doing this research, really increased my run, and I hope to get to 8 miles. I'm not sure when that will happen necessarily, but as Jamie previously said, the 6 weeks that we had wasn't long enough for me to get there. So I'm just hoping to keep continuing increasing my distance.
Okay, so for myself, as I work full-time and go to school full-time, I haven't been making working out a priority in my life. And as I've done research for this this project and started running, I found that it is very beneficial, and I feel a lot better when I run. And so as this has come to a close, I've been talking to some friends where I work, and we have started doing competitions with each other and being accountable to each other. And so I will continue to stay active and to keep up my running goals.
So I realized that during this intervention that I feel a lot better when I'm able to get out and run sometime during the day. So I noticed that I was able to focus better and I felt a lot better. And not only did I feel a lot better about, that I went out and worked out, but I just felt better in general as a whole. So I did find it difficult to find time because I work full time and go to school full time. So, but I did do some research, which has helped me be able to plan my time better. So, setting the goals did help me, but looking up some extra stuff to help me in meantime kind of works out. So, I have a few people that are going to start running with me, which each week. So, we planned a few days to meet, and which is going to be super helpful. And another thing too is instead of running on the treadmill, I think I'm going to run outside just because I found that I got kind of bored on the treadmill. I did end up getting 13 miles on the treadmill, but it was like the longest process in my entire life. And I don't even know if I'd wish that on my worst enemy. But I really did. I do enjoy running outside. So I think I'll probably just stick to running outside for my future goals and just continuing to increase each week and running more.
I'd have to say that doing this project definitely motivated me to be more active. I do feel a lot more physically active or physically fit after this project. I'm definitely going to continue to run at least 2 to 3 times a week, even after this project, and hopefully continue in the long term. And I want to meet my long-term goal, which is 8 miles in the next month, hopefully. Thank you.
So my long-term goal was to run a half marathon. Previously, before the start of the study, I couldn't run a mile. So I've actually been super motivated based off of this study to continue running. I actually signed up for my first half marathon in November. So I'm hoping at the rate that I'm running, and I've continued running after our study and our data was collected, I'm hoping to get to 13 miles before November. I really enjoyed this study, and I definitely felt like I'm in better physical shape, and I just have more energy throughout the day. And I'm definitely thankful for this project. And I think overall as a group, we would all agree that goal setting and performance feedback was beneficial to increasing our running distance. Thank you so much.